Okay. Hey everyone, my name's Mary Kobenschlag, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Discover Pathwaze. So first of all, I want to let you know that all of the information that you are seeing here on the screen and live with me today, we will have on my website, on Discover Pathwaze website. So don't feel like you have to take a lot of notes. Every link, every template form that I'm showing you today will be available to you. Give us a couple days. We want to get it all perfect, and then we'll have it up. We also welcome any emails or questions that you may have, because we know that some of this will spark some questions for you, and we're happy to take phone calls or address your emails. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So let's go ahead and get started. The presentation that you're seeing today is going to be a little bit different than some of the others. So this is about how to keep organized in the college application process. And so we're going to be touching on just about every aspect of the college application process, but yet we're not going to be doing a deep dive. And so I will be stopping along the way, and I'll tell you, okay, this is a good point where you should look up the information. For instance, if you want to know more about the financial fit, there will be financial guidance, Streamable U, webinars that you can look at the schedule and attend those. So this is really just keeping track of all of the information that is most critical for you to apply and keep up to date with the college application process. So organization is key, obviously, because it's a pretty arduous process. So this is what we're going to discuss tonight. Think about it as a project, and we'll talk about what that means. Understand that there's a timeline involved in a schedule, and it's pretty critical in this case. You're going to want to think about the colleges and the short list of what you're applying to. You want to look at all the organization tools that are available for you for free out there and access those. You want to gather your personal information, and we'll go into some detail about that. And then you want to think about the different testing that you're going to be performing, either your ACT, SAT, or your subject tests. And then really ask yourself a question. At what point do you need to contact someone that's an expert? They are called independent education consultants, someone like myself, to either get additional guidance or have questions answered. So it is a project. It has a definite start and a definite end. The end will be when you accept the school and the school accepts you and you're on your way to college. Some of you are going to start the timeline in your freshman, sophomore year, depending on the classes you take, and some of you are going to come to us your senior year and start this process then. And it's okay. It's just the schedule gets really compressed depending on when you start. And I would encourage you to start on or around your sophomore year to start thinking about certain aspects of the college application process and gathering your materials. And we'll go into that. There are certain activities and tasks that you're going to need to do, and there are very specific times in the schedule. We're going to look through your junior and senior schedule and hit some of the high points. And then there's a lot of content that you're going to have to pull together. You're going to have to request it from other people, which means you're going to have to get those requests in early, because you're going to need to give them enough time to respond to your request and the hundreds of other students that are requesting information. You're going to need to create some content. You're going to need a place to organize it, have somebody help review it, your parent, a friend, a counselor, a teacher, and then you're going to have to gather all of this and send it. I do want to stress that rushing through this process not only drives stress and anxiety, but it often delivers not great quality. And I'll tell you a little scenario. We had a young man applying to Stanford, and the night before his application was due, he decided to start all of his essays. And I have to tell you, they have a lot of essays that you have to write. So not a great way to approach your application, waiting the night before, the week before, even the month before, because your college reps absolutely can tell when the quality is not there. You want to put your best foot forward. You have been working really hard for 3-4 years at that point, taking hard classes, and so you just don't want to drop the ball at the very end. So let's talk about this timeline. I have to say I'm going to reference a lot of other individuals that are experts in this, and that's exactly what we need. College Essay Guy, we love him. His content that he has on creating essays, on creating activities is just stellar. And so I would encourage you to look at his free content out there and gather what you can. He has this great little poster, and I know it's an eye chart. And again, you can have all of these slides and go through them as well as the links. But he's got a great timeline, and it starts with the junior year. And basically, the school's primary evaluation is the rigor, so how hard and arduous your classes are, as well as how well you did in those classes. So we often get the question of, is it better to take harder classes, your AP, advanced, IB classes, or is it better to do well? And what we tell our students is, listen, you want to do as well as you can with as hard a class as you can take, because the colleges are going to look at that and evaluate your readiness to take college level classes. So you're not just going to blast through these classes, you're actually in there to learn. So make sure you're learning the content, but rigor is the absolute number one thing that they look at as far as your application. The second is your test scores, your SAT, ACT. So that's what you're going to be looking at your winter and spring of your junior year, is getting ready for those tests, your ACT or SAT. And I would tell you, you have a little flexibility with that. I'm going to give you a few tips of things that maybe not everyone knows. Often we will have students take their SAT or ACT the end of their junior year, their spring, but often that is when they are involved in sports, they're getting ready for their finals, they've just come off spring break, and some of our juniors are ready to take it very early in the spring of their junior year, and they've had a lot of time to study over the holidays, and so they ask us, can we take it? So often the schools won't have the test, but you can find another testing center, and absolutely your ACT or SAT, you really should schedule in where you can. Again, there's going to be another streamable U course on all of the testing ins and outs, the subtleties of the difference between the SAT or ACT, but keeping track of all of the testing and when you need to do it is critical to this timeline. The second thing that there's a major timeline around is your financial fit. So even though FAFSA, which is hard to say, opens up October 1st of your senior year, you can definitely get a handle on what you think you're going to have to pay for college based on a couple other numbers. You'll notice down on the bottom left, your EFC, which is your estimated family contribution. It's what the institutions deem as an index. They take your revenue, income, some of your assets, and then they determine how much they think your family can pay. Frequently, our families say, I don't agree with that number, but just understand that is what the government and the schools believe that you should be able to cough up for school. The other is the net price calculator. The net price calculator should be easily found on any website, and you can go in. Again, sometimes it's only 2 numbers you'll have to put in, and it will spit you out what they believe that you will pay for that school. So those are 2 ways you can get ahead of the timeline and organize yourself on how much money you're going to have to pay out and what type of financial aid you're going to need. So after you think about your timeline, and I'd say schedule these into your calendar, the next biggest thing you're going to be looking at is your list of colleges, right? And how do you organize all that information? And what I have smattered all over the screen right now is the different websites, very reputable, great information that you can do college searches. Many of our parents ask us about how many schools should we apply to. We say if you've done your homework and you know what schools you have a high probability of getting in, a healthy list is 8 to 10. And you're going to see why in a minute. There's so much information you have to supply in a single application by way of essays and other information that when you get more than that, it really is a defeating process. So you can apply to as many as you want, but just keeping all this information intact is really laborious. So you go and you do your college search. Again, there's going to be a great course on how to do college matches and get a great list together that's perfect for you. But here's some of the websites. So it can be things like the size of the school, the weather, whether they have a Greek system, whether they have Division I or 3 sports. All of that is very specific to you. And I'd say it's your college search, not your parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. This college should fit you, and it should have the majors you're looking for, or at least the college that you can explore. You look at all the colleges through the search, it delineates it, then you start your research and you do deep dives on each of these colleges. And we have on the next set of slides checklists and templates you can use to put that information in. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a sec. And then once you've pared down your colleges to, say, a dozen or more, then you really start to think, do I want to visit? Do I need to see the school where I'm going to spend the next 4 to 5 years of my life? And we can, in most cases, encourage you to do that, if at all possible. If you are going to visit a college, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details, please try to do it when they're having session. You want to see the students that are there. You want to go to the cafeteria, see what that's like, visit a classroom, and there's great checklists that tell you exactly what you need to do when you're visiting a college. Once you've gotten all that information together and you've got your short list that you definitely are going to apply to, you're going to go into that college strategy, which is how do you maximize your chances of getting in? And there's a lot of techniques to use: early action, early decision, which is binding. So you really want to understand what that means before you apply to a college, early decision. And then obviously the whole application process. You've got to have all the content together in a certain place that's easily accessible. Okay, I know this is an eye chart, but again, happy to share this with you. I'm just showing you this as an example. This is a spreadsheet that we have created for some of our students that don't have access to tools. In the first column, we have given an example school. We're in Boulder, Colorado, so we put University of Colorado at Boulder, CU. The second column is basically the link to the admissions requirements. So you can pop onto that website and understand exactly what you need to do to apply there. You're going to probably fill out a whole nother spreadsheet on all of those details, but at least you have that link available. The next column tells you when you're going to apply. This is really important your senior year, because your senior year, you're busy taking tough classes because you don't want to pull up on the gas pedal for your classes. You are probably in sports or activities, possibly working. So really don't think you're going to have a lot of time your senior year to get all of this done in the fall. So give yourself a gift of doing some of this work in the summer. And in fact, I'm just going to stop and talk about that for a sec. If I can tell you 3 things to do in the summer that will really help you get ahead in organizing everything you need to stay on track and meet the deadlines, it is 1, start your Common App main essay in the summer. We know that your LA teacher and class is going to have that in the fall, but it'd be great to have it ready, because more than likely you're going to have to do more than 1 essay, sometimes more than 5 or 6. And so at the end of the day, it'd be nice to understand how to create a good essay and create all the content so that you can replicate it for the mini essays. So number 1, before you start your senior year, try to get your essay done. 2, try to create your activity sheet. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but your activities, which can be scholastic, sports, work, philanthropy, all of that, you should just create a laundry list of each of those. And the Common App and the other applications take it in a very specific format. Do you know you only have 150 characters, not words, characters to talk about your activities? So at the end of the day, that is 1 line and 3/4. So just barely shy of 2 lines that you have to explain what that activity is. Now, there is an additional section you can add, and you can create bullets. But at the end of the day, they don't want to see too many of those. The other is you only have 10 activities. So do your essays in the summer before your senior year, do your activity list, and then start your Common App profile. Those 3 things will give you a great jump start. We have a great workshop, and every student that goes through and plows through this always says at the end they were so glad they did it before their senior year, and it really took a lot of load off of them, and it was a big stress reliever. So give yourself that gift. So if you could work your way through the spreadsheet, you can see things like, when's my transcript due? When did I request it? Am I going to have a counselor recommendation? Yes or no? Am I going to need a teacher letter of recommendation? If yes, how many? And on and on. I think I'm still on. Oh, great. We're good. Yay. Okay. So these types of spreadsheets, although it looks like a lot, I'm telling you, it will save you hours of going and going, okay, what did CU need? What did DU? What did Pepperdine need? It all starts to muddle together. The same is true for the college visits. You want to remember what you loved about the college. It was always rainy, I hate it. It was always rainy, I loved it. I mean, just get that. It all starts to blur together. So as much as you can do to put this down in a common place, you're going to help yourself. Ta-da! Checklists and templates. I love the internet. I'm telling you. There are all these amazing checklists out there for you. Some of them you handwrite in, some of them they actually let you work directly online with them. Big Future, College Board, probably the best out there as far as reusable things for you to access. So definitely go type in the search and pull up something that's going to fit you and what you're looking for, and then use it. Now we're going to talk a little bit about where to go with it. So there's tools, right? Where do you put all this stuff as you've been gathering it, as you've been working on it? Many of the high schools use Naviance. Naviance is a tool similar to Guided Path and others where it stores transcripts. It is a great communication vehicle between the high school counselors, the high school teachers that are receiving letters of recommendation requests, and it automates much of that. So if your high school doesn't have Naviance, then you're going to probably have to rely on whatever the system is the high school has you use. But I would encourage you to use Google Docs and then create folders and subfolders. We have folders for essays, for activities, for the colleges, for college visits, whatever will keep you so you don't waste time looking, use that. And just use the standard ones. The reason why we love Google Docs is because you can do Google Share, right? And you can be working on your essay and you can share it with your LA teacher or your parent or someone that can help you look over it and make sure it's adequate. So you don't worry about the different versions of the document. And am I working on a down level document? So definitely use Google Docs and of course spreadsheets, right? Who doesn't love Excel? This is perfect for the type of data. You can sort on which schools are Common App, which schools do I have to apply in November versus December, which schools require one teacher recommendation letter. You know, the Excel spreadsheets are just all around good. Takes a long time to input the data, but once it's in there, you definitely can use it to your advantage. Lastly, you're going to gather a lot of personal information, especially in Common App. There's 3 different applications. There's Common App, which is used at a majority of the schools, but not all. Coalition, which is used at less, but still some. And then many of the schools still have their own independent application. So you're going to be gathering the same type of information for all of them. With Common App, it's going to ask you questions like, when did your parents graduate? What degree did they get? It's not information that you normally know. So again, before your senior year, pop into Common App, put in your profile. It will not delete it. If you put colleges in, it will. So there's certain parts of Common App that will refresh, but for the most part, you can create your profile, which is pretty time consuming, and get that out of the way and have your parents sitting next to you, or your guardian, or that person. You're going to want to gather your transcripts and what classes are you taking. I would, again, encourage you, do not pull back on your rigor in the classes you're taking your senior year. I know you probably have senioritis, but at the end of the day, it's really important that you show upward movement with the rigor of your classes and upward grades as far as your ability to do well in those classes. That is what the colleges want to see. You need to know if you have a weighted GPA, what's your unweighted. Some schools don't factor that for you, and so you're going to have to figure out the formula for both your GPA weighted and unweighted. Again, you're going to have your activities list. There's a great spreadsheet I'm going to include in this I didn't even think about. It has about 300 different activities. So if you think, I just can't figure out what I've done, chess club, whatever it is, it has an exhaustive list of all the different activities, and it will definitely jar your memory. You're going to want to think about your recognition and awards. This only goes back to your 9th grade. So any awards you got in middle school, they don't count, or recognition, but you'd be surprised how much you have out there. Not every school, in fact, most don't ask for your resume. But while you're creating your activity list, you might as well go out, grab a template, and create a resume. I always tell students it's hardest to create your first resume. From there on, it's just little tweaks and modifications. But if you can get that done, it will really serve you well, because you're probably going to need a job when you get to college. And then lastly, there's a whole bunch of financial data that your parents or guardians will be responsible for FAFSA. So we're close to done. The last major piece of information you're going to need to organize is your test scores. Again, there's going to be a great Streamable U webinar on SAT versus ACT and all the subtleties. And there are differences between them, and you want to know which you score better and do well in. And you want to know when the schedules are for both them and your subject tests. And then you really want to think about how often you retake the tests. We had a student this last week that called me and said, Mary, I'm overloaded with everything this fall of my senior year. Do I really need to retake my SAT or ACT? In her case, it was the ACT. And I said, hey, listen, let me go look at your schools you're applying to. Let me look at your probability of being accepted. So we have the ability to see how probable is it that you're in what we call the safe zone. And it's one of your target schools, your likelies. And at the end, she doesn't need to retake it. So I called her up and said, hey, listen, you're good. Go focus on your classes. She's in theater. She's got a drama coming up. And it just really took a load off of her shoulders, knowing she didn't have the time to study for it. She really didn't have the money to take it again. And really, it would have not served her at all. So those are the types of questions you want to ask yourself. And as you gather this information, you're going to be able to see how you score against the schools you're going after. And you also know if you have a healthy college list, right? If your scores are not going to get you in the safe zone, then you really need to ask yourself, do I need additional colleges in there so I'm not disappointed? Lastly, if you need some help, there are pros out there. There are certified IECs. We are one. There are many great ones. Some of the things they can help you with are just answering specific questions. Some of the things they can help you with is going through the entire process with you. They are going to cut through the noise. one of the biggest things we do is reduce the stress and anxiety of this process, take it off the shoulders of the parents and the kids and allow us to manage that. We can help choose because we know the schools that fit you. So based on your profile, they can help you, whether it's an academic fit, a financial fit, a personal fit. They have tools which you see below that keep all this organized. And they understand the colleges and what they're looking for and can maximize your chances. So I hope this helped you organize yourself. And I'm going to go ahead and take questions if we have any. Do you work with students virtually or in person or both? We work with students in our office. This is our office right outside of Boulder, Colorado. We work with students remotely all over the United States and in fact all over the world. And yeah, it's this process. Any other questions? Great question. Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit more about reference letters? So I'm assuming you're talking about college reference letters, but if you're talking about work, college, great. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, reference letters and letters of recommendation, I will be talking about next week in the Streamable U. So strictly speaking, reference letters. Reference letters are normally from employers or people that are outside of academia. So if we're talking a reference letter from a coach, from a pastor, somebody from a nonprofit, then basically what we do is we have the student ask up front, would you mind giving me a reference letter verbally? Then if the person says, yes, I know you well enough, or what you did, I will. Then normally the second is I will send you an email requesting it. You give them the information you need. That's really important. People want to help you. People want to give you a good recommendation if they can support it. But often they need specifics. So frequently they will ask you, what is the context? So you will tell them, I'm applying for this school. They require a letter of reference. These are the things, a couple of things I'd love for you to highlight, because granted, you're asking other people for other information. Understanding that at the end of the day, the colleges are looking for a well-rounded individual. They obviously can see you're a good student, you've got good grades, you've scored well on your ACT, SAT. They've learned a little bit about you through your essay, but really, will you show up and do whatever it is you're required to do? So that's where reference letters come in. I would tell you to don't get too many reference letters over what's required. The admissions officers don't have time to read it, so pick the best and then go with those. Now, I will tell you that many reference letters are sent sealed to the colleges. You want to make sure that you have your name, the college you're applying to, and your graduation date in your high school on it, so that the admission rep knows if it's not going with an application, how to match it. But choose the people that you know will give you a positive reference, because you may or may not ever see it. The same is true with your teacher or counselor letter of recommendation. You actually sign off in the Common App that you will not see it. Sometimes they'll give it to you on the side, but at the end of the day, frequently, you also want to help your teachers with those letters of recommendation. What are you planning on studying? How has their class empowered you to do well in that university setting, that major? So did I answer your question? Okay, great. Anything else? Any other great questions? This is so fun, by the way. Okay, we're all set. Well, if you guys have any more questions, you know where to find us, Discover Pathwaze, and we'd love to talk to you. Thanks.